Hello and welcome to another YouTube Live. This is going to be a altcoin analysis or an altcoin market analysis. We're going to talk about many different altcoins within the market. We got a bunch to go over. We already made a analysis for BTC going over mainly the 4-hour daily and not really talking about the hourly chart because we are still kind of looking at the price action to hold this nice level of support at around $9,700 and then potentially create some lower highs, forming something maybe like this, where you hold a nice level of support, and then when you start to make lower highs and it forms a descending triangle, or at least a descending trend line that is connecting the lower highs, and then once we're able to break above that zone and then pull back to find a nice level of confluence for the buyers to enter into the market to find the lower or the higher low, then we'll be able to potentially find a great risk reward situation for us to enter in. So at this point in time, we're not really going to be doing anything for BTC, so we'll just be covering over what happened within the market, but I don't really think we'll be looking at potential opportunities to enter just yet because I still want to see what BTC does because it is the market leader, it is the king. We want to really ensure that we know what BTC is doing before we enter, and a lot of our trades are just sympathy plays based off of what BTC does. So we'll go over the different pairs in the market. We will take away some of the TA that we had previously and kind of have a more clean, fresh chart where we just have maybe key descending or ascending zones and then some supply and demand zones horizontally. So let's just quickly go over what we can see here. That was a pair that we didn't really look over too much last time. Let's just quickly look what we can identify for some key horizontal zones on the weekly and daily chart because we didn't go over this particular pair last time. We got some nice supply zones right there where we have a lot of demand there as well. I think we'll be able to refine that on the daily chart. So let's quickly hop on the daily and then refine those zones a little bit more clear. I think this is a zone there, but let's just see where the price action is. I think I'm going to skip that and then just put the next zone where we have a couple of the candle closures at those wicks, and then we see right there, it's a rejection zone. So we're right at a resistance zone. We're not really looking to enter or anything, just looking at key zones that we can identify maybe on the 4-hour as well, and definitely the weekly and 1-hour time frames. So we got our key zones there. We got our little major support zone, and then we got our supply zone, and then we got another level of support there, and then we can also incorporate potentially a mid-range zone, potentially somewhere around here. So it's looking pretty good. I'm not really going to be looking to enter just yet within the market. I think I will take this one away and try to just use one trend line within that little area, price action area right there. So overall, not really seeing a whole lot on VET. We had a significant move towards the upside, seeing some higher highs and higher lows. We broke an ascending trend line. We can see that right around here. Maybe if we can maneuver that a little bit. We didn't really see any real pullback whatsoever, but we did see quite the extension from this candle right here to the upside. We can, if we zoom in right here, we see a strong move from the bulls to try to push the price up. We can see that within this candle right here, but then within that same time frame, we saw the bears push it right back down, closing significantly lower than the open. So we can refine this a little bit more, but we're not really going to be doing that. We were making higher highs and higher lows. We broke an ascending trend line, and now we're making a lower low from the previous. We'll potentially make a lower high. So what we could potentially see here right here, let's actually refine this a little bit clear. So we can actually talk about potential opportunities that we could see within the market if we were to see them. So let's just draw this a little bit more clear, and this would be green because it was a previous level of support, and I'm just going to put that up there. Draw a bit of a projection zone that we could see as a nice level of resistance, and then we're looking for horizontal zones. We can see a key major horizontal zone right around here that the price is respecting. So we got one injection of sell pressure right here. We got the buyers to come back and then the sellers to come and push the price right back down. That's our first injection of sell pressure. And then ideally you're looking for 2 before entering in any market. And then you have a nice level of support right here. That would potentially be a level that you want to be looking at in case the price does range and it actually doesn't bounce. Overall, we're not really looking at to short just yet because of what we discussed within the BTC markets, but that's kind of how I would play the markets. Is we're on a downtrend, we're looking to make a entry on a lower high while we're forming lower highs and lower lows, pushing the price lower and lower. So we're not really looking to enter just yet, so I'm not really going to be looking on the hourly chart, mainly just sticking to the 4-hour. And I think I'd like to see BTC fall a little bit more before we look to short, but that is VET. RVN is somewhere sort of a similar structure. I don't really like going on the 1-hour chart because it looks a little bit messy on the 1-hour. Actually, it's not so bad. We see a nice consolidation zone. It broke down below. It's now retesting as a new nice level of resistance. We see more sell volume coming in than buy volume, indicating volume distribution. So overall, we do see a nice, well-respected market structure occurring on RVN paired with US Tether. But like I said again, we're not really looking to short this market at this point in time. NEO holding that nice level of ascending support. We drew this in before that drop, and it's holding this structure pretty well for a nice level of support. We don't really see any level of respected zones. We do see this zone right here, and I kind of see it starting. It is pretty well respected throughout the price action pattern right there, but it's not ideal. And if we do get, let's say, 3 or 4 injections of sell pressure at that area, giving us more of an indication and a confirmation that there are sellers within that range, then you can use it as a dependable zone. And then you probably set your stop loss above the recent highs there in case the price does go towards the upside. You're covered for your losses. So not looking at NEO for a short, but it still does look pretty good. The market structure is holding pretty well. So a lot of these alts definitely broke key levels of support, and we can see MATIC is the exact same way on the 1-hour chart. Looking at the 4-hour, we know that we are on a major level of support, so we're definitely not looking to enter short until we break this level of support. So no entries just yet, but let's just say, for example, we wanted to enter a feeler trade. What would we be looking for a possible entry on this feeler trade? Well, we're looking for key levels of historic levels of previous support and resistance. So this one right here would be definitely a major zone that we'd be looking at. We can see it's a key level of resistance. Resistance turned into support right here, and then we could potentially see it as a nice level of resistance. We see a massive doji candle create a lot of volatility in the market. It did close green, but barely. That does indicate a lot of indecision in the market. There's both buy and sell pressure really battling it out. So overall, it does still hold the support zone, which is these 2 white lines at the lower half of the chart there. So we're not really going to be looking to enter short until we do get a breakdown below this zone. So overall, we're not looking to enter short. But if we were, we want to see the price come back and enter this zone of confluence for the sell side, because we have an ascending trend line that is now going to be our resistance. And we also see a nice level of horizontal previous level of resistance and support. That may be a new level of resistance. So that's how we would play this short. And theoretically, yeah, we could enter short here and maybe get a potential bit of a scalp. Not really a scalp, but if you had a risk reward of, let's say, minimum of 2 to 1, you could be entering here, and then your first level to take profit would be around here. So that could be a good opportunity to potentially enter a little short here, and then we try to get the risk reward, or that we try to get the risk down to the break even, not as quickly as possible, but in a decently quick manner, which allows us to completely mitigate our risk. That would be a pretty good situation to find. But at this point in time, we don't have the price where we really want it, so we're not really going to be taking any action. So that's the structure that we see on MATIC right now. Still above that key level of support, which is around, let's say, 0.02 is a round number that we could see as a key and nice level of support that we could see the price hold above. So not looking to short just yet, but we do see that price break the key level of ascending support. What's really going to be interesting is this descending zone is pretty well respected. So once that does break, I think we could see a nice market structure move towards the upside, where we start seeing higher highs and higher lows, kind of like a descending zone like we saw in the previous market structures, where if it breaks, most likely we'll see a move towards the upside, especially when it's on the 4-hour. It's much more respected than you're looking on the 15-minute, for example. So now that is MATIC. let's look at ONT for the final. I was looking at this, obviously I did not enter, but yeah, definitely glad I did not enter this particular situation. Why I was looking to potentially enter it, let's talk about it right now. On the hour chart, we saw the price break above, and on the 4-hour time frame, we were holding above the previous market structure like so. That's where I kind of had the initial trend line, where you saw the 4-hour candle closures right at the zone, and then the next candle closures you did see right here. And then the main thing I was looking at is the volume, and I was already having exposure on XRP and TRX, so I didn't really want to be entering ONT, but I was potentially looking at this on the hour chart. It does look pretty darn good. This bearish candle right here did give me a lot of hesitation to enter on the long side. Let's just talk about market structure and talk about injections in the market. So we had a nice consolidation here forming the, yes, they were higher highs right here, but it was a consolidation on the 4-hour chart. These were just wicks. So we were forming a nice consolidation, holding between resistance and support. And we did break to the upside on the 4-hour. This was a candle closure above the previous levels of resistance, which did indicate a structural higher high, as well as on the 1-hour, this was definitely a structural higher high. This bearish engulfing candle right there was a little bit worrying, but when we did see the consolidation continue, it was a little bit more bullish, as we can see within the market structure within that consolidation here. We did see quite a bit more buy volume coming into the market than sell volume, so it did give me a little bit more reassurance that big bearish engulfing candle did not actually have nearly as much buy volume than what we saw in the previous price action right here. So for me, it was a little bit less worrying than I guess it could have been if we did see more sell pressure come into the market. We did see a double top here where we were in the consolidation before, and we basically were looking to potentially enter right here if we were looking to gain more exposure, but we were definitely not. And then we did not actually enter. So looking at the injections of buy volume coming into the market, we did see quite a bit of injections of buy volume, and we did see more bullish candles close than bearish, which in my opinion was a little bit good to see. So this was definitely a very, very bearish candle, but we did see this bullish candle right here, and it closed very strong compared to the next candle right here, which closed very weak for the bears and closed pretty bullish because we did see the wick actually significantly push, or we did see a wick come all the way out, and then the bulls pushed it basically to above the gray area, which does indicate for me that there's bullish pressure. And then with the previous candle already seeing that bullish pressure closing pretty high at the top of the wick there does indicate quite a bit of bulls in the market. And then we did see the price start to make higher highs, breaking the previous level of resistance, and then we saw a massive bearish candle push the price down. So this bearish candle is definitely a little bit worrying, but within this consolidation, we were seeing a little bit more bullish volume coming into the market, as well as some bullish candles within the consolidation. So a good opportunity. I didn't enter it. I did look at XRP and TRX, and I did enter those, and we'll talk about why. But now after that point, we did see the price now break this nice level of support, and now we're holding it as a new level of resistance. Let's break it down on the 4-hour chart here. Yep, we can see it's a pretty well-respected zone on the 4-hour, although there's not a tremendous amount of buy volume coming in. So we broke the support. Now we're holding it as a nice level of resistance. We see a lot of sell pressure coming into the market. We have made a lower low. This was a high. Now it's a lower low. We could potentially be seeing a lower high around here. We could even see a nice breakdown. Just looking at trend lines here, because we haven't broken this trend line. I'm just seeing it on my eye here. So we haven't really broken this trend line, but we'll see how the price action goes. This could be a potential opportunity here because it could be a pretty big fall until our next key zone. Let's just look at the larger time frame, seeing a mid-range zone around, probably around right here, looking at the overall structure of the chart. So that's probably the next zone that we could see if we do fall, which is a decent risk reward. I'd definitely say that's at least 2 to 1 if we have a risk above this zone. But for now, we don't see the price breaking this zone on the 4-hour. I really like to look on the 4-hour right now. It's looking well respected all around. I don't have that perfectly on that zone. Definitely should have that. And change that a little bit. Let's just make sure we get this anchor point right on. I'm just going to put it right at this zone. Key, nice level, and then we'll just put these connection points a little bit more key, and then what I will do is just use a projection for the rest of that. And then that will complete my TA on the 4-hour chart for ONT. We're still holding it pretty well here. And that is done. All right, so also for anyone watching for our YouTube live, you can drop a comment and I'll be able to answer any questions that you may have. So continuing on with another analysis, we're not really going to be doing anything for ONT. Talking about market structure a little bit before we move on to the next alt. We did technically make a higher high at this point here, but theoretically, I'm just going to call those highs, and then it formed a resistance. You could just basically call this one level of resistance, and then we fell down pretty hard. We are still holding our ascending level of support, which is connecting our higher lows, so we haven't really broken that zone for a second level of validation, but we have broken our first level of validation, first level of resistance, new level of support. Now it's going to be new level of resistance. So it's really in a place where it's getting squeezed because you got a new level of resistance right here, and you got an ascending level of support right here. So the price is really squeezed, kind of really has to make a decision soon. Looking at the different alts within the market, definitely it looks like it could be forming another move to the downside, and then now we have a nice level of confluence where it's already retested this zone for a resistance, and now it could come for a double or even triple confirmation where we could look for an entry at this point with a risk reward, which would be pretty good because we would have a risk above this zone, and then our first level of take profit would be around here, and that's 2.2, 2.3, maybe even 2.5 risk reward. Definitely at least 2, and that's what we're looking for. So that's the potential that we'll have on here. I don't really like entering if it's just closing here. I'd like to see the price, if it is able to come down, break, make definitely a lower low, and then we have a nice zone of confluence where we have previous level of support right here where it had a nice double confirmation, and then you have a nice level of resistance. So that's a dependable area that we can use as a nice level of a resistance that we could use for a potential short in the market. So we'll see what happens. Nothing crazy yet. We'll stay patient because BTC just made its move to downside, and then we're still holding a nice level of support, but this could be a good hedge. I do like it more than the other alts within the market, to be completely honest, because it's a little bit closer to our zone. We do have another kind of opportunities. NEO does look like a good opportunity. If the price does come back a little bit higher up for a potential hedge, MATIC is all right. We do have a strong level of demand at this zone here, where these two white zones, that's going to be the mid-range zone that there's going to be a lot of buy volume in. And then ONT, looking on the daily, doesn't have a tremendous amount of, I guess this is the major demand zone, and then we have another one up here that will be our level of resistance if we break it, so it makes sense. So we'll see how it goes. This is a potential opportunity, but we're not really looking for shorts at this very moment like we've been talking about before. So that is this page done. Just quickly looking at BTC, how it's looking on the 1 hour. Holding in a little bit of buy volume, nothing crazy. Definitely not going to be looking to enter or anything, trying to capture a nice support bounce. I definitely don't have enough confirmation for that yet. So now let's go on to the next set. ETC, we never really loved. There was not a whole lot of price action pattern for me to go off of. I didn't really see anything that was clear, dependable that I could use. We do have a nice ascending support there that we could have used for a nice level of a potential level where we could use, but we weren't really looking for shorts in the market. Yes, we were potentially expecting a little bit of a drop from BTC, like we talked about, from where we were previously to a nice level of support. But with the current market, we can't really expect any shorts. We don't really want any short exposure when the price and trend is making such strong higher highs and higher lows, unless it was for a hedge. And theoretically, looking backwards, because we had exposure to the long side, we could have used some level of a hedge to capture the downside to a market, but that's all right. I'm not really upset about that situation. We didn't lose a lot of money or anything. We managed our risk very well, and I knew exactly how much I was losing, and we lost that much, and that's just how it goes. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. When you accept risk before you enter a trade, you're less likely to get upset if you lose it, compared to if you don't really understand how much risk you are taking, especially if you're day trading and you're just putting on trades, not really understanding how much money that you have on risk or that you have at risk, and then you lose, let's say, a significant portion of your portfolio that you didn't expect to. Obviously, you're going to be very, very upset and butthurt and disappointed and upset at the market. But if you are just looking at, let's say, losing a percent or half a percent, percent and a half, 2%, whatever, of your total portfolio, and then you lose it, well, you already knew how much you're going to risk exactly to the dollar. And if you lose it, okay, well, you know how much you're losing. You know how much you're going to potentially lose when you put on a trade. So it's a lot easier to manage in terms of your emotions when you have that set, understanded, and even accepted before even entering a market. So that is definitely something to keep in mind. Yeah, ETC does look at potential. I'm not really loving the structure of the market for ETC right now, even on the 4 hours. So I'm not really going to look too far into it. That's basically all I see, because we see a break in a key level of support. If we do respect it for a nice level of resistance, that could be a potential opportunity, because we see an ascending support get broken as well. So that's another confirmation that the bears are in control. We also see a strong level of volume distribution, which also signifies that the bears are in control, and this is a lower high. We've been seeing lower lows and lower highs recently, where this is a high, lower high, and we could potentially see a lower high with the retest of the exhaustion of, or the completion of the exhaustion could be the lower high that we need in order to start that next lower low. So we'll see how the market structure comes together, but obviously we're not going to be entering after completion of the move. How do you think, this is a question that came in from Z $. I'm just going to get a drink of coffee here before I start the sentence, or the question I should say. How do you think BCT will fill the CME futures gap on Mondays? Yeah, so we talked about the BTC and the futures gap that will occur if the market is basically going to open where it currently is. It's sitting around 9,800, 9,900, and the previous CME futures gap open or closed at basically 10.5. So there'll definitely be a gap, and we'll see how the price reacts. Definitely check out the BTC video if you haven't checked it out. But I do think that gaps do fill. They might not be immediate, but I do think that we are still holding the level of support that we're currently at around $97, $96, $9,800, and that's the level of confluence we can see on the larger macro view. And I do think that the price will be able to hold that zone. And if we're not able to hold that zone, we discuss the different head and shoulders patterns that we could identify, and we'd have to wait for confirmation on the entries before we actually look to enter. That would mean breaking of a key level of a neckline support and then pulling back, retesting it for a nice valid level of resistance, and then we need to see price action confirmation with at least some level of confirmation that there's sell pressure, probably bearish engulfing candles. We're looking for pin bars, we're looking for double tops, we're looking for something that will identify that there's sell pressure within the market. So that is the outlook for BTC in a verbal way, but if you want to illustrate it by visual charts, definitely check that video. So now moving on to another pair. Hopefully I answered your question, Z $. Atom, also similar kind of thing. I don't love the structure of this price action at all. It's just kind of zigzagging, and I personally don't really like to see too much consolidation sideways. I like trends. Yeah, no problem. Thanks, dude, he said. So what we can see right now is we're basically right below a mid-range zone. You can see I'm not really going to draw a whole lot of price action on here, because at this point in time, if it's ranging, it's great. Like, for example, if it is ranging or ranging, it's great, because we could just look for continuation patterns. But at this consolidation where you're just getting really strong peaks and pullbacks, I'm not really going to trade this, because I don't really have an edge in the market unless you see a nice descending or ascending zone. So at this point in time, we're not really going to get into Atom, because it's not something I want to be trading. Zach looked pretty good. It was forming a really nice structure, forming higher highs and higher lows, and then we got a pretty big breakdown here, although we're not seeing that much sell pressure compared to how much buy pressure we got, which is good solid volume accumulation, which is great for us, because then it means that the buyers aren't completely losing confidence and distributing the coins in the market, selling them, trying to get it out of their hands. They're holding it. They're saying, screw it, I'm holding the levels of support. I still have confidence. I still have conviction that the market is going to be trending higher, so they're not selling, which is good for us, because that gives us a level of confidence and a indication that we could still be looking for long opportunities when BTC does hold, and potentially we could see a nice potential for an entry on a pullback once we have the market start to trend higher, seeing those nice higher highs and higher lows. So let's look on The 4-hour, it just broke down, so obviously we're not going to be really looking for anything. We do see some lower highs there that we could potentially look at connecting. We do see a nice potential anchor point at this high here. So just looking at what we could be potentially seeing. Obviously, we don't exactly know what could be looking at right here because we don't really see another lower high. But we can see that there could be a potential because on the 4-hour, we formed a nice structure where we have very, very nice structured highs and lows and structured supports and resistances. We can see that right here. Very nice structure support. And then we have a mid-range zone that is both used as a support and resistance right around here. And this will be red. So what would be really nice if we'd be able to hold a nice level of support and resistance. This white horizontal zone is a mid-range zone at around $58 to $57. We can see that on the daily chart. It's a very, very key area within the chart. We can see back in 2019, it's a very, very key zone within 2019, maybe spring or summerish. And then we test it for a support, and then we come back down, and now we tested it for resistance, and then we push back above. So that's the final zone we're going to be looking at for a level of support, but we'll see how the lower highs come. I'm not really going to be looking to enter until we see a nice key lower high. So let's just talk about market structure by having a snip here. Also, what we're doing this, if you're a newcomer, we do have 5 people watching right now. If you have any questions while we're going through this, please ask it within the chat and we'll be able to answer any questions that you may have that is relevant with what we're talking about here. So we have these lower highs. This is a high, and then we want to see a lower high, which we had once, and we do see a little bit of lower high here. We could see a nice projection, kind of like make a little bit more of a zone for us here, but overall we do see the nice lower highs forming, and then what I'd ideally like to see is potentially maybe a lower high here, and then potentially a lower high here, and then we see a squeeze in price where we see previous resistance turn into a nice solid level of support where we see a squeezing of price. The price has to make a decision because this is the apex, and then ideally with the market structure that we have and the different pairs that we're looking at, as well as BTC leading the market sentiment, we will see a move towards the upside, and then we'll be able to capture an entry at least maybe here because we'll see a push up, maybe a pullback as a previous level of resistance turning into a new level of support, and then we'll look to potentially enter on that nice new validation of the level of support, and then we'll look to enter. And then if we actually if we're sleeping or something happens where we're not entering here, then potentially the pullback could appear here. We get a nice validation of a previous level of resistance, new level of support like we see here, and then we'll look to potentially enter with a nice move towards the upside. So we'll see how it goes. I'm still looking long because BTC still looks like it's holding a nice level of support, but I don't really have confirmation that there is too much bearish action within the market that I need to be shorting a significant amount. I'm still looking for longs for the significant of my pairs that I'm going to be looking at. So that's ZEC. I'm not really going to be looking at entering right now, but that's what I would like to see before I look to enter, and I'm not really looking at shorting. I think there's better opportunities that we could be looking at. Shorting Dash is a really good opportunity for a short, in my opinion, when we do eventually get to it. So LTC is next, Litecoin. Let me just get some coffee here. All right, so we were drawing this last night. Let's just talk on the hour chart to discuss the market structure that we currently saw from when we analyzed it last time to when we are currently analyzing. So we had 2 key resistance double top. We didn't really get higher than that. It's really nice and solid. And then we formed 2 ascending trend lines. This is the first one. We see nice higher lows holding well there. And then we started to see the price increase, breaking a previous resistance, holding it for a nice new level of support multiple times, creating a nice structured consolidation zone. And then we saw the price make higher highs from that zone, which is creating a squeeze in the market. So we saw a resistance right there, and then we saw a squeeze forming higher lows, higher lows, higher lows, and then we saw the price create the price. The price had to make a decision coming towards the apex of the pattern, and then the price chose to break to the downside. Once it broke the ascending support, we can see it retested the previous level of resistance right here. We can see that right here. Pretty easy identifiable zone of sensitivity within the zone right here. So once we see that first confirmation that there's sell pressure within the area, then we immediately say, okay, is that a level of sensitivity that we could be looking at? We look to the left of the chart. Okay, well, it was respected here. It was respected here with lots of sell pressure identified by the wicks here, and it was identified right here. So within the chart, yeah, that's a pretty damn well respected area on the chart. So yeah, we can see, okay, that's a potential area of sensitivity. We saw it respect 3 times, so we can say, oh wow, that's a pretty well respected zone, right? So let's just zoom in right here and look at the price action, just talking about the structure of the candles, because that's very, very important. So we can see sell pressure, sell pressure, sell pressure, right? Sell pressure turning into buy pressure, tons of sell pressure, tons of sell pressure, tons of sell pressure, turning into a little bit of buy pressure. So we know, yes, that is a very, very key level in the chart that we can depend on. So I'm just going to put my line like so we see first injection of sell pressure right here. We see first little wave of buy pressure and then a massive sell pressure right after. We see tremendous amount of sell pressure coming in compared to the buy pressure. Well, not tremendous, but a significant amount of sell pressure coming in compared to the buy pressure. So that for me is the first indication that there is sell pressure coming into the market. First injection number 1. Number 2 injection is going to be this injection number 2. We see a very, very bullish candle. We see that right here, but the sell pressure when the price is going down is more significant than the buy pressure coming up. So that's good to see for the bearish bias that you could potentially have within this price action pattern. So that gets stuffed. Again, we see sell pressure coming in, pushing it right back down. That is indication number 2 that there is injections of sell pressure. Indication number 3 is this massive, massive bearish candle. Obviously, that is the kill candle that really, really represents that sellers are in the market. We see really, really rising significant amount of sellers coming into the market. That is, for me, a very strong, solid pattern that is dependable that you could use. You'd want to enter on the second or third injection of sell pressure like we always talk about, and ideally you don't want to enter at the close here because you see that the bears are really, really seeing that pressure hold, and you do see the higher low forming here. So this is a little bit of a squeeze. Once the price breaks the squeeze, yeah, you could enter there. You could be potentially looking at the 50-minute, but you could, a lot of ways to play it, but that is the market structure, and that's how you would play that potential opportunity if you're looking short. So now that the price has broken the zone, we're now looking at potential short opportunities. We see that the price is now respecting our zone. We see the first injection of sell pressure pushing the price down. We see a first buy pressure coming back, seeing if we're able to break that zone. And looking at horizontal zones that we could find as confluences, definitely not hard. You can really, really easily see that this is a zone of confluence for the sellers. You could put it up a little bit higher, but I'm just going to put it right here and make it a nice short small zone. You can see it's a level of resistance. If you put it down a little bit, kind of like so. Resistance, support, resistance, 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 support, support. Now it's going to be a new level of resistance, and we now have a zone of confluence where you have an ascending zone acting as a previous level of support. Now it's going to be a new level of resistance. Same thing as the horizontal zone, previous level of resistance, new level of, or previous level of support and resistance. So it's going to be a new level of resistance. So great to see. Lots of bearish pressure within the market. So like honestly, that's a pretty ideal situation to find yourself in after just breaking that zone. So if you're looking to get some sell pressure or sell exposure, honestly, that's not a bad place to do it because you already have one injection of sell pressure come in. Wait a little bit longer, see 2 or 3 injections of sell pressure, then that would be a good opportunity to enter short. Not really going to talk about trade plans or anything because it's pretty easy. Just put your stop loss, maybe above this high or at least above this high, or like at a minimum above this gray zone here. And then you'd be looking at a 2 to 1, 2.5 to 1 risk reward for your first one. That's a pretty good level at the $72 range, and you could be looking further downwards. So let's just look at this compared to BTC, because BTC is basically at a very, very similar, if not exact same spot, and we're looking at the final zone of 98, which would be around 64. So we do got a good amount of room though before you could actually take some profit if you have a good risk if you have good risk parameters, because you're not going to be risking 10%. You're going to be risking 2 or even 1.5, and you'll be taking potentially maybe. Just looking at BTC, the furthest we're going to be thinking about dropping is 3.5, which would probably be around here, which is not a significant move. You're looking at, I don't know, for me it's not really worth it because the potential here would be not tremendous. You do have a key zone right here. We also have a key zone kind of above right here where you currently see the support, and the next zone would be here. So it does depend on how far you could be looking at nice levels of support here, but I'm personally thinking that I'm going to hold off. I'm going to wait BTC. I'm going to wait until BTC does show me a little bit more strength. We do see that we're still very well on a strong movement to the upside, so I don't want to be looking to short anytime soon. This could just be a healthy pullback, continuing the move to the upside. So that's my LTC analysis. Looks all right. If we were in a little bit of a move up for a more continuation to the move down, like if we were in a long-term macro move to the way down, obviously I'm looking to really attack the shorts, but 2020 has been a massive roar to the upside. The bulls are completely in control. Why would I want to be shorting and looking for short opportunities? I have before and I've been proven wrong, so I don't really want to be shorting the market unless I am proven wrong to not make longs. And if the whole market structure, like we've been seeing on BTC, if we do see the indications, seeing those lower highs and lower lows, if we complete a head and shoulder pattern, as we can see on the BTC analysis we did earlier today, then we could look for potential opportunities to make a move to the downside. But right now, don't really want to be shorting at this very moment. Let me just get some coffee here for the next analysis. So XLM is going to be the next move. We did see a nice descending zone that did break out. Not a lot of a pullback, so it didn't really give us a chance to enter of that descending trend line. Pulling back to our zone of confluence for the bulls. If we just move this a little bit lower, kind of like so. Maybe we can even just put that like so. I don't mind that. So we got a zone of confluence. Not really looking at longs at this very moment. We're not really going to be doing anything because I want BTC to make more of a move before I look to enter, because it is the identifier of the sentiment for me for the kind of the whole market, because BTC is so strong. Or it moves a lot of the alts within the market, so I do a lot of sympathy plays with it. So I don't really, if I don't have a confirmation of BTC or I don't have confidence in BTC, then I'll just patiently wait until I have more of a confirmation until I look to enter. So ADA still looks strong. This horizontal green zones is a major demand zone. So if we look on the daily chart, very well respected zone. So this could just be a very nice, healthy pullback to our major key structural support that we just broke as a previous level of resistance. We see right here, very key zone of support. We see a very key zone of resistance, and then that major rejection right here signified that this level is a key area, and then we tested for a resistance before coming down. We held it for a resistance pretty well before shooting up, and then now we're going to test for a nice level of support. So Cardano, definitely not looking for any shorts within the market. This could be a great entry for a pullback here before we make our next move to the upside. And then honestly, we do have a couple of mid-range zones from where we currently are to our next major level of supply, which is going to be around right here. Massive gap from zone to zone we could be looking at there, and I'll be trying for that if we are able to get an entry on a nice continuation pattern to the upside. But we do have a minor level right here. We see a support multiple times, and we also see it as a resistance and a support there. So we do got a mid-range zone there, so we could be taking partial profits. So we got definitely maybe a 2-to-1 or 2.5-to-1 here, and then we got a mid-range zone, and you got our final take profit, which is our key level of resistance here, which is going to be a great entry exit situation. So we'll see how it turns out. Not looking for shorts, mainly looking for longs or on Cardano. But just because we pulled back doesn't mean we're looking for shorts. We're looking for continuation patterns. But right now, we're not seeing a whole lot. I do see a little bit of a pattern that we could potentially emerge if we are able to get that nice validation that there's going to be more sell pressure. And then we do see a nice level right there. And that's all I will draw on the chart. There's not a whole lot more. A little bit more sell pressure than I'd like to see, but looking back at the daily and the weekly and 4-hour, it just looks very strong. I'm very happy with the potential push that we could see, and this is a potential move that we could see emerge, turn into a great trade. I think what I will do is just create a projection on here to really illustrate that descending zone and how I want to see it respected a couple more times before we... that did not really work. Oops. Before we look to enter, I'd like to see this respected a couple more times, but it is going to be something I'm going to be looking at for an opportunity towards the upside. So that'll be here. XL I'm not really looking at. LTC I'm not looking at. ZEC I could potentially see. Atom definitely not. And ETC definitely not. So let's just look. ONT not too much. MATIC I still could potentially see. because that descending zone is looking pretty good there. Neo is a potential short that we could be looking at. I'm kind of looking for longs at this moment, but still we could see it. Raven coin, not really, and then Vet, not really. So we got some coins here we could be looking at. I think the main one is going to be ADA. That looks really, really strong because of such a key demand zone that we have labeled in green there. So that's going to be the main one. ZEC does look pretty good too if we are able to break that descending zone. So that's something that we will be looking at. And let's do our final explorer here. I guess you could just taking a quick look at BTC. Getting a little sell pressure, nothing crazy. So let's do our analysis for the last handful of pairs here, and I'm just going to get a drink of water. Also, if you have any questions, if you are new to the live, drop them in the comment section below or the chat section to, I think, the right or below. I'm not exactly sure if you're on mobile or on a computer, but if you drop a comment, I'll be happy to answer whatever you have if it's relevant to what we're discussing today. All right, so for the final 7 here, we entered our XRP. I'm looking at Binance. So we entered XRP. Why did we enter XRP? Well, let's discuss it right now in a pretty solid breakdown of why we entered. So there's definitely a couple indications of why we entered. First and foremost, we were making higher highs and higher lows, breaking resistances and supports. On the hour chart as well as the 4 hour, this is a new high. So we're making higher highs right here. This is a higher high from here. This is a higher high from this higher high. This is a higher from this higher high. So we're making higher highs, and then we got stuffed from making higher highs with this resistance here. So we saw resistance here, 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 here. So we're making resistances, not being able to form a higher high. So that for me is a area where price is holding above, which I know there's sellers at this area. Short sellers, people losing confidence in the in the price action going up. If that breaks, the short sellers are going to get potentially squeezed out, or their stop losses are potentially going to get hit, or they're going to lose a little bit of confidence. And the people that are within the bulls or are looking bullish are going to see that the price is making a higher high and could potentially look for longs because the market structure has now formed a higher high. Also, looking at the lows, we see higher lows, so the price is squeezing, creating a horizontal zone and a higher low situation, creating an ascending triangle. So that was our price action pattern, as well as the market structure was forming higher highs and higher lows, as well as look at the volume. We see higher volume here, higher buy volume here, higher buy volume here, higher buy volume here. All throughout the chart, we're seeing higher buy volume, and within the consolidation before we broke out, we're seeing higher buy volume here as well, seeing volume accumulation all throughout the chart, which is really, really great to see. So that is another indication of the reason why we looked to enter. Also, another thing, looking at the market structure on the 4 hour, look how well it respected. So we saw a market structure right here. This is the high. And then looking at just the candle closures, we see that nice higher high candle closure, which for me is an indication. And the candle closed above our major mid-range zone, which is going to be this one right here. Oops, I think I moved that a little bit. So this is going to be the major mid-range zone. We see key structural resistance and support within the area. So that's why we entered, and to me, it was a pretty good opportunity to gain a little bit of exposure within the market while really being able to manage our risk, because the trend was up, the momentum was up. We're seeing the market structure go up. Things were looking pretty good. BTC has made a new high. We were potentially looking for a pullback, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to have any exposure within the market. You have to be all right with taking risk in the market. Even though my potential bias was a little bit bearish because I kind of wanted to see that pullback validate our support a little bit more, that isn't going to guarantee anything in the market. I don't know I'm right. I don't know that it's actually going to do that. We could just see a higher high form, seeing a large injection of buy volume coming into market. And if I didn't have any exposure in these alts, I would have lost the potential and lost out on some potential gains. And that's why I entered and gained some exposure on TRX as well as XRP, and they were both losses, but I'm very all right with taking small losses. Look at the risk reward that I had set for this plan. It would have been an average in of around 3.5, 3.56, 3.6, something around there. So the risk reward that we're trying to attain for these trades allows me to take small losses and still come out profitable because I'm managing my risk. I'm not putting mental stop losses. These are hard stop loss. If the price hits it, instantly I'm going out. I don't want to deal with any bullshit, sleep overnight massive losses that some people have, where they're gonna have dynamic stop losses. Well, they'll say, oh, I'll get around the 0.31 range, and they go to bed not setting a stop loss, and then it goes down 10%, and then at this point they're like, oh, it might as well come back up, and then it goes down further, and then they're just screwed, and then they lose a significant amount of their capital compared to what they could have lost if they just set a stop loss. So always setting stop loss is a major thing to keep in mind, and a major thing to have as a discipline as a trader. So did not work out. That's not a problem. We are going to advance and continue working to look for other opportunities in the market with no emotions on this trade. It's just the probabilities. This probability turned out negative. It's just if you have weighted dice and it's weighted on, or a weighted coin, I should say, and the coin is weighted, I don't know, 60, you win more heads than you lose tails, basically. And if you lose tails, you're not going to assume that the coin is now shifted. You're going to trust the coin is still weighted in your favor, and it doesn't matter if you take a couple of losses or whatever the case may be. You're going to still continue to trust the coin is weighted because you haven't changed the coin. So we're still going to advance and continue and drive forward, looking for other opportunities within the market. So TRX is another opportunity that we did unfortunately not make money on, but that's not a problem. We really managed our risk. Look at this risk reward. We didn't really risk much because we basically risked if the price was able to break down below this previous resistance, like we saw here, I was going to cut that loss and basically say I am completely wrong and it's totally all right, because we had a zone of confluence. We had this initial resistance, which is now going to be a new level of support, which we saw buy volume coming with 2 injections of buy volume. So that indicated to me that there was buyers within the area. And we also had an ascending zone created an ascending trend line where we really saw a lot of buy volume, or a lot of respect of this zone as a new level of support. We see our first anchor point right here. That's fine and dandy. And then we see 1, 2, 3, 4, really validating that zone as a dependable area that we can depend on as a nice new level of support. And then we had a nice level of confluence where we had the horizontal zone and the ascending zone come together at a single point. And then recently within the price action, we did see a lot more buy volume than sell volume coming into the market. So there was indications that there was volume accumulation occurring within the consolidation that we were having above our resistance, forming a new show that there is strong moves toward the upside, and there's a possibility of the market moving towards our intended direction. So I'll take all this out because we lost money on both situations, and that's just how it goes. Sorry, I was just seeing if I already took pictures of them, and I did. So that is now something that we'll be looking at potentially for another entry, but at this point in time, we're not really going to be entering. We'll just look on the 4-hour and seeing how the market reacts to our current zones that we have located on the chart. So that is XRP and TRX, going over why we entered, what we did during the entry, not really much, and basically why or how we came to the conclusion that we should be entering at that point in time. Just going to be looking at quickly the any chat comments here. Oh, okay, he is Z. Okay, hello, Z. I didn't know that. Okay, cool. All right, so let's continue on with the analysis here. We have 2 people watching. If anyone's watching and would like to answer or ask a question, please feel free. I'll be answering questions as they come in within the chat. So now going on to Ethereum. Similar type of structure. We were looking at this as a nice potential entry for a long opportunity. Unfortunately, we did not enter this. Well, I guess fortunately we did not enter this. It looked pretty good, honestly, for a lot of reasons. First reason, easy. It was forming a nice ascending triangle. We can see that right here, forming higher lows, very well respected on the chart. And then we see a nice horizontal zone of resistance, forming a nice keys level of supply. We saw the price break on the 1-hour, hold on the 4-hour, and we saw many injections of buy pressure coming into the market. We already had exposure to the upside, so we didn't want to get overexposed to the market, so we didn't enter this pair. But look how well it respected this. We saw our first injection of buy pressure here, and then we saw a second level of injection of buy pressure at this zone here, giving us 2 indications that there are injections of buy pressure. Now we did see a nice descending zone there, so if we were really looking for confirmation, we would have broken that descending zone, but it looked pretty dang good. And within the consolidation before this major drop, we can see right here there is high levels of buy pressure coming in compared to the sell pressure. We can see Let's just get our arrow. We can see lots of buy pressure coming in, especially in the move up compared to the sell pressure within the consolidation. So it's looking pretty good. There's a lot of indications why this would be a good entry towards the upside. And another Performante member did enter on this, but we cut our losses short. I believe Nathan raised his stop loss, so we actually did cut his losses a little bit shorter, which is great to see. And overall, it was a good trade in my opinion, even though it was a little bit of a loss. Good entry, good trade management, and there's a lot of things going for that particular trade. So now we've kind of hit a supply zone, and we're now pulling back, seeing how BTC will react, not really looking to enter on these. EOS took a very, very big dive. So this is a symmetrical triangle that we're talking about a little bit on EOS. It pushed. Actually, this is a good example of what to look for on a break to the downside. We weren't really looking for downside exposure because of BTC seeing so bullish, because of a lot of different indications. But we can see this is a strong level in the chart, and we test it multiple times. This is the thing. You're looking for indications of sell pressure coming into the market. So let me get a little bit of coffee here. So you see on the hour chart, which is a valid time frame to look at. You're not looking at the 1 minute where there's tons of noise. You're looking at a valid time frame. So you see these lower highs with the price respecting a key descending trend line very well. You see a type A, a type C, I guess, and a type A, type A, type B, type A, type A, type B. So you see a lot of confirmations that yes, 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 these are all very, very well-defined key areas on a chart. And then also towards the upside on the support, you see that yes, there's also an ascending support is creating the price, making higher lows. So there's a squeeze here that is happening from the market, and the price has to make a decision, either to go upside to the downside. Excuse me, the price chooses to make a move towards the downside. This is its impulse move, its major market move. And after a major market move, the price has to consolidate, it has to take a breath, it has to correct. And what are we looking for? We're looking for the price to now hold a potential zone of confluence, and also to hold where we see injections of either buy or sell volume. Now, ideally, this give me one moment. This is the zone of confluence where you see the ascending zone and horizontal zone. So theoretically, this is the zone of confluence. So it might not line up perfectly, but the zone of confluence is more or less two zones breaking at once. You have a horizontal zone and a descending zone breaking at once, giving us not one, but two confirmations that there are zones breaking, potentially creating a shift in trend. So that is the confirmation we're talking about. And then you're looking for sell pressure coming into the market or buy pressure coming into the market, whichever way you're going. So in this short, because it broke the downside, because it broke the support, we're looking for sell pressure. We're looking for indications of sell injections coming into the market. What are we looking for initially? Sell injections. We're looking for candles that are red. Right here, we see our first injections of sell pressure with a nice retest with lots of pin bars coming up, seeing sell pressure within the market on the hour chart. And then you're seeing the injections with the candle closures closing red, seeing that first injection of sell pressure. And then you see another level of pullback a little bit. Let's zoom in to really, really understand these injections of sell pressure. So let's go right in on the hour chart, and you're not looking for these on the 1 minute or the 5 minute. These are major 1 hour candles, 4 hour candles. So you're looking at this first injection of sell pressure. That is number 1 injection of sell pressure. That is going to be my first level of confirmation. I want to see 2 or at least 3 injections of sell pressure before I look to enter. So this is my first one. This is my second injection right there of sell pressure, where you see one move and then you see a pullback and you see a second move on the way down. That is my second injection of sell pressure. So that is number 2. So we see not 1, but we see 2 injections of sell pressure. And then you see the pullback once again, and also within that consolidation, we see more sell pressure in the volume than buy pressure in the volume, indicating volume distribution, which is great to see. And then what do you see again? To confirm even more, to really, really give you that validation, it's going to pull back again and give you another injection of sell pressure, validating this zone as a very, very strong level of resistance, as we can see as a previous level within the chart. So we can see we're looking for zone of sensitivity within the chart previously in the consolidation, and then you're looking for sell pressure, validating it for a level of 2, if not 3 zones. So we see 2, then you're looking, okay, potentially after this candle closure right here, then you could look to enter, and then you'd have a stop loss above this zone, so you wouldn't have got stopped out anyways. Yeah, you would have had a little bit of a drawdown or a little bit of a time frame that you had to hold longer than if you waited for the third level of injection. But this is still a sound entry, in my opinion, is to enter after the completion of the second injection of sell pressure, and then you put your stop loss above the zone. You wouldn't have got stopped out. You would have waited a little longer, but you still would have been in the money, seeing a nice move to the downside after. But let's say you wanted to wait until you had 3 injections of sell pressure coming into the market. You would have waited until this candle closed. Then you would have entered here, and then your stop loss would have been above these 2 highs. You would have had even better of a risk reward because you would have entered not here, but you would have entered a little bit higher up, and then you would have looked to make money towards the downside. So either way, that would have been a great entry if you would have entered on the second injection or the third injection. But that's how you wait for confirmation. That's how we look and see at confirmations of injections of either sell or buy pressure. So that is the overall outlook for EOS. I just wanted to give a good illustration of how we would have played it. And really, that is the best form of education, is really breaking down entries, and you have a systematic approach to entering and exiting, looking to take profits, where to set stop losses. It's just systematic, and you do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. It starts to become very repetitive, and you're not even thinking at a certain point. You're just doing things that the market tells you to do, if that makes sense. So that's the overall structure for EOS. Now we'll look at Link. Link actually bounced very, very well. Look at that bounce off that nice structural low there. So we'll talk about Link and why we're still looking for longs within this market. So let's just quickly look at the daily chart, looking at just the price action, really complete naked chart. And we'll discuss the higher low, higher high situation. So this is a previous high here. I really like to look for candle closures, not just the very top. Candle closures signify a very important zone on a chart. So that's what we're looking for. So we see the candle closures right here. So that's our first major level that we wanted to see the candle closure above. Previous level of resistance. We closed above it. Didn't really perfectly test for a new level of support, but we did get that nice confirmation that there's buyers within the area with the daily candle closing below, and then this strong bullish move pushing the price back up, forming a new high. So we're making higher highs and higher lows, which is great. We did break above. I think it's breaking the all-time high. I'm just trying to look right now. I think it has broken the all-time high, which is a significant move. Link does look like it's forming higher highs and higher lows and seeing a lot more buy volume coming into the market compared to a lot of different alts that we're looking at. And we do also see that we are forming higher lows and that we are seeing buy accumulation, buy volume accumulation, and also increasing buy volume. So there's more and more people looking at the chart. And look at that monster move to the upside. We're looking for continuation patterns, and like we're no way looking for shorts in any way whatsoever. And now let's look for a potential opportunity. We see a very, very bullish candle on Link here. Let's look at the 1 hour, and let's just look at for potential opportunities. So unfortunately, we don't really see a descending zone or anything that we can use to create more of an edge, because at this point in time we saw a descending zone. So let's just break down how the momentum up is looking, what we could potentially look at for entries, because we broke our previous level of resistance and we are now testing it for a nice new level of support. We can see that right here. Ideally, our edge is going to be a descending zone, sort of like we see here, where it's holding lower highs, where this is a high, this is a lower high, this is a lower high, this is a lower high, and then we can form a nice lower high, and then we can create a squeeze because there's going to be some level of support somewhere along the chart. We can see that right here. For this one, we can see that right here. If we're able to hold this zone and then break out, we have a really good edge trading this situation right here, where the break of a zone of confluence, we really have an edge in trading that particular opportunity. So that's what we're going to try to wait for, and that's what we're looking for. We do see a little bit of a lower high here. That would be good to see if that continue, and then we see a nice consolidation form. But right now we don't really see an opportunity that we could enter in for this price action right here. So we're going to be patient. We're going to wait. We're going to not enter until we see better price action confirmation that we can depend off of. But at this point in time, what I'm going to do is I guess I already have price action already laid out here. So that's exactly what we were looking at right here. So I'm just going to leave the price action like so, and then we form a nice ascending support there, and that's all I'm really going to do. I think I could form a nice high, just putting this right there, but I'm not really going to be doing much else. Dash is the nice level of potential bearish exposure that we could have. Now, if this was a little bit more of a bearish market, I would be all over this, because this looks awesome for a potential short. But because we're in a bullish market, because we see a lot of opportunities to the upside, and BTC is still holding a $9,100 level of support, as we can see right here, around, I guess, 98 level of support, and the max is going to be 94. That's going to be the kind of last level of support we can see. My bad on that one. 94 is the last level of support that we want to be able to hold before we're going to look to the downside for exposure. So 9400 is the key zone. 95, 94, somewhere around there. So looking at Dash, we see a nice ascending support that got held very, very well respected, and then we broke the zone, seeing a decent amount of sell pressure coming in. Not a tremendous amount looking at the previous R vol that we've seen on the way up, but we do see that there is a decent amount of sell pressure, not as much as the amount of buy pressure that we've seen within the previous price action. So good to see still the bulls having a decent amount of confidence, just looking at that volume right there. So what we're looking for, let's say in a hypothetical situation, if we really wanted to short and get some sell side exposure, what we're looking for is key levels of sensitivity. This is a very, very typical A+ setup that I'd be looking at for a short. If we were looking key level of resistance, key level of resistance, key level of support, zone of sensitivity, and then we have a nice zone of confluence at the zone here. So now jumping to the 1 hour, let's just draw in our nice zone of sensitivity. We can see that right here, a little bit higher, a little bit lower. So I'm going to put that in right around there. So now what are we looking for? We're looking for injections of sell pressure. We already got our first injection of sell pressure right there. Now we're looking for a next injection of sell pressure, and then what we're looking to do is enter after that point. Obviously, looking at the 15, we could see if we wanted to see some lower lows and lower highs at this very moment. We're holding below a nice structural resistance. If we do form a higher high right there, we could be looking until the price is making lower lows and lower highs before we enter short. But like I said before, I'm not really looking to enter a short at this very moment. I'm not looking to enter to gain some exposure to the downside because of BTC still holding at $94, $95, $100 level of support. And that is the overall market analysis. We'll do BNB, but it's a similar type of situation. I didn't really get a nice level of support there, so I just drew two. It'd be nice if we formed potentially a descending zone there. We'll see how it looks, but that's a potential opportunity that we could see within the market in the near term future. So we'll just draw it in. If anything comes out of it, that would be great. If it doesn't, that's all right. But at this point in time, we're just seeing how the market reacts to the current levels that we have. Hope you enjoyed this market analysis. It wasn't as exciting as maybe the previous other ones because we're not really entering, because the market just made a move to the downside, and now we're waiting patiently, being a sniper, waiting for the entry signals to come through. If nothing is happening, we're not entering, we're just waiting. We're really sitting on our hands and trying to get a good edge within the market that we know we have a higher than average probability of being right. So let's see how it plays out. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments right now before we finish the video. I'll answer any comments that are relevant to the video, and if nothing comes out, then I'll probably just close the video off and then end it so only the private members are able to view this. What we do is, for the three members that are watching, we host this every single day. We do a BTC market analysis where we just talk about the price action of Bitcoin, looking at the long shorts within the market, analyzing what the potential opportunities are within that market. And then what we do for our premium members is we go over every single alt that you see within the screen, over 15 alts, going over both macro and micro timeframes, looking at both weekly, daily, 4-hour, 1-hour charts, really breaking it down, seeing the major key zones so we can really identify key opportunities for our students in a variety of assets within the cryptocurrency market, not just looking at Bitcoin, not just looking at Ethereum or the major alts. We're really covering a wide variety of projects, a wide variety of pairs that really allow you to gain a lot of opportunities in the market, which is great for both obviously me, because I could make different trades, which will obviously make money when you're exposed to different opportunities, but also for you, because the more opportunities that you're able to see within the market, the more experience you'll be able to get. For example, if you're just looking at BTC, you get one pair you're looking at, you see one breakout, but if you see the whole market move in a series of ebbs and flow waves from the bulls to the bears, gaining and losing confidence, you get to see that whole wave happen in many different pairs. So if you see like the wave of 2019 from the really bullish start of 2019, and then the later half seeing that bearish move kind of consolidate back down, you see not just the bullish and bearish pushes and pulls from BTC, but you're seeing that throughout the entire chart. So you're seeing all the breaks, all the different types of ways the price can break out towards the upside, how many ways you can see the price reverse from a bullish sentiment to a bearish sentiment on every single different alt that you're looking at. This is a tremendous amount of experience that you're able to attain in a shorter amount of time because you're experiencing much more in the same time frame, if that makes sense. So instead of experiencing one asset within a asset class, for example, like what a lot of people do, you're experiencing 15, 16 different assets within the same asset class that is similarly moving kind of in a similar direction. So you're able to understand how price differently moves in different situations while the overall market structure is going in the same direction. So it's very, very interesting. A lot of sympathy play possibilities that we're able to capture within the market, and that's what we try to stick to. So no questions that came in. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be doing this every day. Obviously, this will just be for the Performante Premium members when we do actually save it, but we will be doing this live for a little bit. We'll see how it plays out. Mainly, the reasons why we're doing the entire altcoin analysis live is to show people how much value we give every single day. This isn't like a weekly thing. We literally do this every single day, as well as the BTC. The Bitcoin analysis will always be free, but the altcoin analysis will not be free forever. We don't exactly know when we will make this switch, but I think a lot of people don't really understand the level of depth that we go to for every single video in order to educate the individuals that are really taking the leap and really trying to start the journey to become a trader. So I hope this has provided value in your day, and I hope you have a good rest of the weekend. And if you're hustling in the weekend, if you're working hard, I respect the hustle. And if not, if you're spending quality time with friends and family, that is very important as well. As well, if you're within the Discord, thank you very much for being a part of our community. Thank you very much for being a part of what we call our community, because it's very, very enjoyable, and I really get a lot of satisfaction seeing people learn, get educated, seeing people bounce ideas off of each other, having a good, healthy place for people to get educated and really get a good understanding if they have no base level of knowledge in the market to really get a solid foundation, I guess, of what trading is. And it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not like you're going to make $100 and turn it into $1 million overnight. It's a slow progress that you will learn over time. And once you get good, yeah, it's amazing. But to get to that point, it's like anything. It takes a lot of time. You're not going to be able to become a doctor, lawyer, accountant, anything, investment banker, even a teacher, a professor, even different professions like a pro tennis player, pro basketball player, pro snowboarder, a professional artist, a singer, a rock star, anything that's like worthy of doing takes a lot of time. If you want to be like a postman, if you want to go work for I don't know, some government union that you're getting paid a decent amount because you're a union, but like it's not hard to get simple jobs that don't really require a lot of hard work, but then also don't reward you as much. You're never going to be able to be financially free. You're never going to be able to truly live your dreams if you're going to work for someone or work for a paycheck. Really, you can't. You got to ask when you can take vacations. You got to go to work a certain time, a certain hour, a certain duration of time. It's bullshit. So, if you want to be able to break out of that, it requires a tremendous amount of risk to some degree, because time is an asset that I think a lot of people undervalue. And if you are pursuing something, for example, if you're pursuing trading, if you're pursuing building a business, that's a lot of time and effort out of your own day to build that thing that could be used for another business or another source of income or something like that. So time is the greatest asset, especially when you're young and you have a lot of it, compared to when you're older. You have a lot more responsibilities. If you have a family, if you have kids, if you have dogs, if you have other responsibilities as life goes on and as you become more of an adult, obviously the responsibilities stack on. But when you're young, when you're in your teens, early 20s, mid 20s, even later 20s, you have way less responsibilities. So it makes sense to really, really go after it and just grind like really fucking hard to try to chase the life that you'll be able to have while you are in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Because if you don't have that time to grind when you're young, it's really hard to build that into your schedule when you have those responsibilities. And it's challenging because you kind of have a choice in life that you can't undo. You either go the road of, it sounds not the most pleasant, but you kind of lose friends. You don't go out as much. You don't party. You don't spend as much time with friends and family, and you really, really work hard towards your passion, towards your goal. It could be anything. It could be literally anything. It could be DJing. It could be like fucking anything that pays and you can make money with it, right? But you got to focus so much on that one thing that you're going to lose time with friends, with family, with things that you wish you could have done, but you're focusing on your craft, you're beating on your work. That makes sense, right? But there's an option, because you could spend your 20s really enjoying life, going to all these things that are fun, spending a ton of time with your friends, not really working on anything. But then when you get into the later part of your life, into your 30s, 40s, and 50s, well, then you're kind of shit out of luck, because then you don't have the time to be able to kind of do what you want, and the job that you had that you didn't love, but it paid you enough that sustained your lifestyle that you wanted for that time. Well, your lifestyle isn't going to be improving at the level that you want, because you see other people that did put in the work and did put in the effort in their 20s surpass your life financial goals or whatever, your traveling goals or whatever, and it doesn't feel good, because you know that you can't put in that level of work now because you have all those responsibilities. But if you are able to put in the work before, then when the responsibilities come in, then you have that system, you have that business, you have that trading skill available to you already that you can depend on. So when the responsibilities do come, then you can work on your own, and you can be your own boss, and you can have those that level of freedom that people want. And it takes a shit ton of work. I don't want to swear a lot, but it is, if you think that you can work 40 hours a week and build a business or become a trader, there is no hope in hell. That is like the bare minimum, in my opinion, in order to get kind of anything done as a trader. Now, if you're already successful, it makes sense that you work trading for 40 hours a week. That's like, totally fine. If you're not mentoring anyone, if you're just trading, you don't even need to trade that much if you're a swing trader. But if you're grinding, trying to learn, educate yourself, and really put yourself in a position to succeed in business, in trading, or whatever the case may be, you really, really got to put in every hour that you really can. And that doesn't mean that you can't have any friends or family or girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever the case may be. But you got to tell them straight up, this is what I believe in. This is what I'm going to put my heart and soul into for the next 4 or 5 years. And I'm going to be a different person. My habits, my time will be different. And if they don't understand that, that will be a bit of a challenge. But if they do understand that, and they're willing to accept you shifting your life in order to benefit the next 40, 50 years of your life, depending on how old you are, then, they're definitely worth keeping around. But if they think that you're going to be a bad friend because you're really working on yourself, then, hey, maybe that relationship was not meant to be. So definitely a bit of a tangent there, but I hope you enjoyed it. I guess a little bit of psychology, a little bit of story time. But I'll be hosting these a lot more. Obviously, no one answered a question, or no one asked a question within the chat. But I really enjoy doing these YouTube lives. It gets me in a state where I'm really understanding the market. It gets me in a position where I really understand and I can really convey how I'm feeling about the market to everyone watching. Because for me, typing every single alt analysis out is a little bit time consuming, because let's say I'm looking at 3 or 4 alts. Instead of going just through different time frames in a video, I'm going to type each time frame, weekly, daily, 4 hour, and discuss each time frame, really, really breaking it down. And that is obviously a ton more typing than instead of me making a video. And also from a consumer standpoint, I just feel like it's a lot easier to digest when it's from a video auditorial standpoint instead of a visual written standpoint, because I can really illustrate exactly how I'm trying to convey the reasons why I'm entering, my trade plan, and all of that stuff. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a fantastic weekend. And like always, happy trading.